through real estate. If you're buying your first house or building a real estate portfolio, this show will inspire and motivate you to go out and achieve your goals. And now, here's your host, Gary Rockman.
Time keeps on slipping into the future. I wanna fly like an eagle to the sea. Like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an eagle till I'm free.
Hey, this is your host, Gary Rockman. You are listening to Connection. Welcome to Connection. This is Gary Rockman, your real estate rock star, and I hope you have had a great week. I have had a great week here. It has been cold all over the country, but it's warm in here. Look, I've got a great show for you guys today. There is a lot going on in the news as it pertains to just right now, just with prison reform. Man, my girl Marilyn Mosby, Tuskegee alum here, the state's attorney for Baltimore has said that she will not actually charge or convict for marijuana charges or marijuana possession, no matter what the amount. That is something she's taking off of the books. She plans to actually even start releasing non-violent offenders, who have gone in on cases pertaining to marijuana. And woo, you talking about leadership. So I'm like super, super proud of her. Personal friend of mine, her and her husband, Nick, beautiful family, their two daughters. I'm super excited about that. So yeah, she's all the buzz. Everybody's talking about it all over the country because it's something big, especially for Baltimore. If you kind of know that, the Justice Department had to come in here and really change some things and turn some things around. Doing an investigation and found out all types of corruption and just terrible policing in the system here. So we are so very, very proud of her on taking steps to true reform. That being said, I've got today one of my frat brothers from Tuskegee, the Gamma Epsilon chapter. I'm gonna bring on very shortly here. But I wouldn't be customary if I didn't do what we normally do, and that's read the blog. So read the blog. So today is February 1st, so happy Black History Month. Black History is 365 days of the year, and we are a people who have been on this planet for at least 100,000 years, as the history books don't tell us. But if you do your own research, you can find it. We've been everywhere. We've walked every part of this earth has been the place where we have roamed, we have lived, and so every day is Black History Month. But I will and do want to read last month's blog. This will be probably the last time that I'll read it. At least, I'll have the next month I'll have. Or this later next week, I'll have the February blog finished and ready for you guys. But of course, again, you can go to GaryRockman.com and pick up the blogs there. GaryRockman.com, RAHMAN. For those of you guys who may be listening in, of course, you get the show same way, website or also on YouTube. But last month's blog, I call it $1 billion of work. $1 billion of work. Here we go. How hard can one work to be a billionaire? How much physical effort does it take to turn out $1 billion? Can you really work so hard that your input equals output? The examples of lives of people I follow, like Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson, Reginald Lewis, Warren Buffett, Robert Smith say no. Now, yes, you do have to work hard, but none of these people or the countless people I've interviewed would say their physical effort was the greatest factor to their success. How hard can one work to be a billionaire? How much physical effort does it take to turn out $1 million? Well, the short answer is no one is physically capable of doing such a thing. Some might think of athletes as a counter argument, but if they really think about it, professional athletes' greatest attribute is not their physical ability, but more their high mental ability to call greatness out. Our greatest strength is our will and its ability to connect with the universe to call into existence what we desire, which simply means our success comes from a greater place than our material selves. I've heard many successful people tell stories of how they wrote down, spoke, and even envisioned their dreams, only to shortly after doing so have an unexpected person or thing come into their lives that provided the game-changing thing that was needed to propel their success. I recall in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich of countless people who were either healed or of sickness or changed the world because of dominating thoughts in their mind was to either heal themselves or change their human condition. Eventually transform themselves into physical reality. So my study and even my own self-evaluation reaffirms this to be true. The majority of my success and failure has been the cause of what I have told and sold myself. So as you make your New Year's resolution, work on making them happen. But more importantly, believe that you deserve them and truly believe that they will happen. Be and it is. Folks, that is the January blog. Again, you can catch all the blogs. I've been blogging almost 3 years now, so you can check all those blogs out at GaryRockman.com. Check them out. Looking forward to you doing so. And just want to make sure here. So look at here. It said without delay here. I want to actually get our guest on, but what I'm going to do right before I bring him on is I want to go to a little bit of a song here before I bring him in. Here we go.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading the charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on the rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still life of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry R. women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Key, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
Oh, yes, the revolution will be live, and so are we on Connection. Without further ado, let me bring on my guest, my frat brother Tuskegee GE Lighthouse in the house chapter in the house, brother John Hodges. What's up,
Noob? What up, Noob? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Man, I am doing great. I am so excited, brother, to have you on and just get down and dirty with it, Noob. Noob, of course, I just being a brother from Tuskegee GE, I knew a little bit about the story prior to, having you, actually prior to what kind of, I think, inspired me to say, man, I definitely want to have John on the show. But I want to have you actually in a moment kind of really share your story in more detail. So I'm not even gonna hint to it. But then you posted something on Facebook that was like, okay, gotta have him on the show. And it just seemed like, like the universe, I tell people all the time that the universe, there is nothing by coincidence. All this stuff happens for a reason. But at the same time, all these things in the country around what we're going to discuss today just happening like right now, right? In the last couple of months, we just seen all these major changes. And so without further ado, it is customary on Connection for me. The first question I always ask all my guests is, please tell us your story.
Wow, Gary, I'll tell you what, I don't think you got the time for me to tell you my entire story. But it's a story of redemption. Mm-hmm. It's a story of showing you the power of God in play, real serious. I'm going to be as brief as possible, man. I know we got a while to talk, but I don't want to hold you from the prison reform stuff because that's so vital and so important. But, I guess I'm an anomaly, Noob. I don't come from a single parent household. Both my parents were in play. We were a military family, so we were not under the poverty line, but, we made it. My dad was enlisted military, so we moved around and, did what military brats do. And, through school, I was, listed as being a gifted student. Mm-hmm. And I took all the little after school classes and, was kind of marked for success academically. Served as president of my class through high school and, president of the student body for a minute, and gained a QEP scholarship. Gained a QEP scholarship, which is a quality enrichment program scholarship to Tuskegee. Mm-hmm. And that was on ROTC. Now here's the trip to that. The trip to that is that I had never been in ROTC in high school. Okay. So I got the scholarship just based on, my merit and everything else. Now, you know, man, I followed my sisters to even though we moved around a lot, you know, I followed my sisters to the same high school that I went to. One was like valedictorian of her class, and the other one was like in the top three. So, you know what I had to follow.
Yes, indeed.
Right. So, you know, man, through high school, I didn't fool with any drugs. You know, we had people smoking weed back then and, you know, maybe sipped on some alcohol and whatnot, but I never smoked any weed or anything. And, you know, I guess once you get off to school and decide that you're grown, you decide to want to do things that you want to try. So, you know, those things were tried once I got to Tuskegee. And I did a very good job of, you know, leadership and whatnot through ROTC, did a great job. Matter of fact, I was pegged as possibly, you know, following another loop, which was John Hall, as possible, you know, commander of the entire regiment by the time I was a senior. But, you know, I got down there and you know how it was, Gary. Even when y'all got there, it was still ratio of women to men was 7-8 to 1.
Right.
And got to playing and really didn't appreciate what I had as far as my scholarship was concerned. And I really didn't get an opportunity to feel that until my daughter went down there and we, you know, fought and scuffled to try to make sure she had money to go to school, you know?
Right.
And so I just, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's a story of, I don't know, I won't call it blatant stupidity, but just not an appreciation or an acknowledgement of what your blessings are. So sometime during my time at ski, I started experimenting, you know, with my drug of choice at that point became cocaine.
Okay.
And, you know, started there sniffing. And of course, you know, marijuana is always the gateway drug to that. And after I left Tuskegee, after losing my scholarship, by the way, I left Tuskegee and went in the United States Navy for a short period of time. And from that point, man, it was like a 20-year roller coaster, 15, 20-year roller coaster of, you know, storing powder, you know, having great jobs with great companies because I'm good at what I do. That's not being arrogant. That's just, you know, knowing what my blessings are. And, you know, I've been in sales for most of my life, just like you have, you know, but always present in that was the use of drugs. And a lot of people, when I did finally get in trouble, everybody was surprised because they were like, wait a minute, you know, where did this come from this guy with this background, you know, doing this? So, you know, a lot of things started going on. First of all, it was just the peripheral crimes that go with drug use, shoplifting, you know, back then it was check kiting and, you know, those type things. So, you know, I started making these frequent trips down to the county jail, you know, got to know you for being, you know, a resident at times. And you come, you do 2 weeks here, you got a bad check here, you know, got caught, you know, trying to boost this, that, and the third, but it was under a felony amount. So you only did this amount of time and you did weekend. And it was just a revolving door of the same thing going on for a while. Until such time, and I'll never forget it, dude. It was a young Caucasian officer down there at the county jail, the Muskogee County Jail. And he told me, he said, John, you know what? He said, you're going to keep on playing with these folks. He said, they're going to send you down the road. And down the road, meaning into the actual prison system.
Yeah.
So, you know, eventually, man, drug use got worse. It elevated into, you know, not just snorting cocaine, but smoking crack. You know, but you're always smarter than than everybody else. You know, it's not going to affect me like it affects everybody else. It's not going to do me like, and all the while it actually is. So, man, it just got, you know, life just kind of spiraled out of control for me until such time that I, you know, talking people out of their money, you know, taking 20 minutes to do that, it became just quicker, man, just to, you know, pull a pistol on them and take it. And, you know, this is all the way away from what I was taught in my household, the morals and everything that I was taught. It was all the way from the ideals and purposes of the fraternity. It was all the way from the ideals and purposes of my belief system. But this is what was going on in my life at that time. So, you know, man, after a while, and thank God I finally got caught. I wound up going to jail, and they sentenced me to 20 years with 15 to serve for a series of armed robberies. So I stayed in the county jail for a while, almost a year and a half before I even went down the road. And when I finally did, I wound up doing 7.5 years out of the 15. But Nuke, I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. I really didn't try hard to change. It was good mouth service, good lip service, but the actual internal process that needed to go on to change did not occur on that first trip. So I came home after 7.5 years. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget, it was on my dad's birthday, December 4th of 2000. And I was right back 104 days later.
Wow.
Simply because of the fact, man, that, you know, like I tell people now, they'd be like, John, you know, I got a friend, a family member, a son, a daughter that's doing drugs. And people think that I'm flippant when I tell them this. But the truth of the matter is they can send you to the Betty Ford Clinic. They can spend $20,000 a day if they want to. But a person's not going to stop until they're ready to stop. Until something happens, or some event or series of events go on that makes you change. So now I went right back, and you know, it's a heck of a thing, man, when you get locked up again, when people have invested their time, their energy, their love, their finances into you, and you let them down. You know, and more so than anything else, you let yourself down. So it was rough, man. So I got locked back up for not armed robberies this time, but just for robberies by intimidation. And, you know, and excuse me, Noob, I get a little emotional when I start talking.
Take your time. Take your time, Noob. I understand.
Because it's, you know, to think the effects that you had on more than just your life is really wild. It really is, man. And so I wound up getting a 20-year sentence. But what they did was, because of the fact that I was on parole when I got locked up the second time, under normal circumstances, the new sentence would supersede the previous one, and you would just do that time. But because they did sentence me as a recidivist or a repeat offender, anytime that they gave me, I had to do. So they sentenced me to 20 years. But they got tired of seeing me down there, Gary. So what they said was, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll run it consecutive to the time that you already have left on parole, which was about another 7 years. Yeah, exactly. So for all intents and purposes, these folks told me to do 28 years, man. And this was in 2001.
Wow.
But, you know, one thing I know is that it doesn't matter what man says, because, you know, God got the last word and everything. And so you see where I am, right? This is not 28.
Right.
Initially, man, I went and I had almost given up, for real. Bless their heart, my parents were getting older. My kids were growing up. But no matter what, you know, my parents still came, you know, religiously, loyally, every other week. I don't care where I was in the state of Georgia, they drove to see me.
That's powerful.
And man, I'm gonna tell you something. Without it, I'd probably be dead today. Seriously. They did that until such time that my father had a massive stroke and could not do it anymore. And so at that time, you know, and this is a shout out to the brothers, man. The brother, because a lot of noobs, man, helped me out. Frank Lee, George Street, and they would eventually, once Lisa and I got back together, they would go get Lisa, and they would, you know, she would fly down from New York, and they would go pick them up and bring them to me, so that they could see me, noob. And that's the power of what we had going on. So what wound up happening was this. While I was gone, man, I just made I don't know, maybe you could call it foolishness or whatever else, but it was just time. My babies were growing up. They were, out of high school, college, and I just missed too much. You miss prom, you miss the first boyfriend, you miss the shows that they have at school, their activities, and finally, man, I guess maturity and God's word finally spoke in my ear, and it was just time.
Yeah.
So I started fighting in the courtroom, started fighting, and I just said, well, while I'm here, I'm gonna see. I asked God one day, man. I was sitting on the side of my bed. I'll never forget. And I said, this relationship I have with my higher being. I talked to God. I said, man, look, why did you save me? Why am I still here?
Mm-hmm.
Relay to me what it is I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I think a lot of us had those discussions with God.
Yeah, I know, right? So I actually got an answer back though. And the answer was, you need to let this experience, this series of events, not just be for you. I didn't take you through this for nothing. I didn't take you from the top of the pyramid to the bottom for nothing. I jokingly call myself, the poster boy for missed opportunities a lot of times, man. But because I've had so many opportunities to do much more, with my life, but that wasn't my mission. My mission was to affect as many lives as I can in a positive manner. And that's what I've been trying to do while I was there. Since I've been out, trying to get the word out. I have no shame about telling anybody about my journey. Yourself, because I even talked to the noobs on the steps about that at homecoming, man. Listen, don't take life for granted, bro. It's special. It's sacred. So after fighting for a while, man, I wound up teaching school inside the system.
Right.
And that for me was probably the most enriching thing I could have ever done in this lifetime. Because, people ask me, why you deal with them little bad jokers, man? Because I had a lot of gang members, little young guys that, that had been told by their family members, oh, you ain't, you ain't gonna, you just like your daddy, you ain't gonna never amount to nothing, da. You had the gang chiefs telling them you don't need no school food, you know how to count money, that's all you need to know. And these were the challenges that we were facing with, getting these kids to come. So what I found was that the only thing that really mattered to them was that somebody gave a damn about it.
Right. Yeah.
And once it was shown that I was determined to help them, man, these kids started doing so much better, man. They got GEDs. I started getting hugs in the visitation room from mamas and grandmamas and girlfriends and wives. Oh, man, Mr. John, he ain't never paid attention to school. He ain't never, but he's excited. I would be out on the yard sometime, trying to sleep on a Saturday morning. They beating on the window. Come out here doing math in the dirt with a stick. And I'm telling you, it was, I would tell my wife about it, and she would laugh, because I would be so excited for them. And there was no better feeling, man, than when you look in a kid's eyes and they got that look that says, I got it.
Right.
Now you can't stop them from learning, and that's what they wanted to do. So that was good for me, man. I hosted a lot of programs. I facilitated some programs on relapse recidivism, prevention and awareness. I wrote that program up and facilitated it through the faith character-based dorm. But I saw a lot too, and even though I did make it back out of there physically pretty much the same as I went in, psychologically, man, honestly, I'll never be the same.
Right. I bet. Yeah.
The stuff that you see on Lockup, the stuff you see on Orange is the New Black, and these TV shows, they just don't pull this out of their behinds to try to put on TV. These are things that actually happen. So, I stopped telling my wife about a lot of stuff because bless her heart, she would just cry, worried about my safety. I wouldn't tell my mom about a lot of stuff that happened, because they would worry, and they were worried enough about me to start with. But
Right.
man, I'll tell you something, Luke, the prison system, man, it's messed up, bro, especially down here in Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No, but not, and I appreciate you, man, sharing that, being so transparent, Noop. And this, this show is broadcast worldwide because we are internet based. So there are people who are listening. There are people who've experienced what you're speaking of. And there are people who, have loved ones that are experiencing it. So what we're really trying to do here is really make that connection so they can understand, make it relatable for them. And that's why I have people like yourself on the show that have had these experiences that can speak from that place.
right.
And at the same time, know and continue to have hope, and continue to work and strive that, I can actually change my circumstance, and come on the other side of this and be like a John Hodges and be able to reunite with my family and to be able to touch lives, and hopefully inspire so many more to just to do better. So, one, I want to commend you, Newt, and of the work that you've done, the work that I know that you'll continue to do, and yes, understand that you are so very important to the overall impact of truly to the world. I share with so many people, going through depression or whatever the case. My brother has dealt with depression for all of his life, and I just talk about his gifts that he has, that because he's not sharing that, that the Creator hasn't, again, like you said, hasn't put us on this planet just to be, but to actually be an inspiration to touch lives and make connections. So again, New, I appreciate you for that. I want to jump into a lot of what's going on right now as it relates to prison reform. We know that the president just recently signed a bill, kind of really, getting rid of a lot of, like, at least the non-violent offenders, kind of releasing a lot of that. A lot of them is what's to happen soon. Kind of making some adjustments on different things that were on the books. We know that President Barack Obama had, before he left office, had started doing some of this work as well. Was the only president to actually visit a prison himself in office. So we know that there was some things going on. We know that the great work that Michelle Alexandra has done, and with her book, and so many others. There are countless others. I know that Brother Akbar, Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, and what they're doing as it pertains to prison reform. So there are a lot of people doing some really good work. We know now, recently, Meek Mills and Jay-Z on a mission to free 1 million unjustified detained Americans from different institutions around the country as well.
Man, that was a big fight.
Right, it's humongous. I understand that they have some billionaires that are wanting to work with them in their efforts as well. And like I said, we just, here in Baltimore, big deal. We got a Tuskegee alum who's a friend of mine. My wife and I did a fundraiser for her re-election bid. People were talking about how she didn't have the experience and all of this stuff. And I was like, experience for what, right? The ones that you all consider experiences have done what? Have thrown us in jail, and put things on the books that just completely stripped us of our families, etc. So I was looking for a change, and she is one that has really, Marilyn Mosby has really stepped up in that leadership role, and I'm very proud of her as well. And I'm sure, being a Tuskegee guy, you are as well. Your story, however, as you mentioned, is really not the the non-violent typical peace that many are actually incarcerated around the country from. You, like you said, you kind of started in with the drugs, and then got armed robberies and intimidation, etc. So a bit different in that regard from a lot of people that are still coming out. But at the same time, I'd like you to reflect a bit on just some of the things, I guess, that that some of those young men were shouldn't have maybe been in there with you and others who had done violent crimes. If you can share a little bit of that.
Sure. What happens is, Gary, they have these levels. They have levels of certain levels of prisons, supposed to be nonviolent, and then level 2 is this, and then level 5 is where you have, your real violent offenders. And of course, you can ramp down some of that after you do a considerable period of time with good behavior. You can get down to some of the lower level counts. But the thing that doesn't change is the fact that, you throw a kid in here, he's got he was with someone as they were standing on the corner and got busted for drugs or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're going to give the charge to everybody that was there because nobody would snitch on the other.
Mm.
So it's everybody. So now they're in there, and all of a sudden they're in there with guys that have been locked up 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years and have seen everything and done some of everything. And what happens to them is that they become better criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, because now you're taught, certain things, and it's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the wall that you all would simply not believe. Seriously. And I hope that, no one else will ever have to experience it. But, a lot of these young men, man, once they get there, they're exposed to some of the things that become factors in them becoming jaded in their thinking, whereas they feel like they're lost, because you remember the old mantra about, as a black male, you're only going to live to be 25 anyway.
Right.
Some of them actually believe that.
Right.
So we used to have to try to break that myth down and tear those walls down to where they wouldn't be as reckless in their lifestyle, doing crazy stuff. Well, I'm only going to live to be 25. And no, bro, don't claim that. That's not true. But once they get there, now, especially with the younger guys, it's the big thing, the big push to join these organizations. And they get forced a lot of time to join them.
Mm.
They're not going to do it. They don't want to do it. But in order for them to survive, in order for them to not get beat, in order for them to, not have to succumb to sexual advances, in order for them to, be able to keep their store goods, in order for them to be able to do a lot of things, they're forced to join. And some of them fall weak and go ahead and do it. So, yeah, man, it's tough. And, I guess I would say, by and large, people, we're predators. And just like any predator out there in the wilderness, you can smell weakness, you can smell fear.
Right.
You can tell. But people they know who not to mess with. So, for me, I was, saved a little bit, older guy, but I was the school teacher. You know what I mean? So, I was from Columbus, and down here, Columbus is the second largest city in the state of Georgia. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are locked up. And before the big push with the gangs, with the Gangster Disciples and the Bloods and the Crips, and the Mexican gangs are in there now. The Latino gangs are doing their thing. Now the white guys got their gangs and stuff going on. It's crazy. But before that went on, it was hometown. Hometown against hometown. Columbus against Atlanta. Atlanta against Augusta. And, I would say due to the fact that, okay, I was well respected on the compound, I had most of the better details that you could have as an inmate. Treated folks fairly, helped guys out a lot. So I was protected. Even if they got wind that somebody wanted to try to mess with me, they were like, no, it's not happening before it even got to me. But these young guys don't have that protection, you know. So they have to succumb to a lot of stuff, man, and it's rough for them in there, very
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
But I will tell the families this: if you have a youngster that's locked up, stay prayed up
Hmm.
and keep the hope, because where there's a will, there's a way. Just keep
Hmm.
fighting,
Yeah. Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
fighting. You
Yeah.
know, because had I given up, I was not supposed to come home, like I said, in 2028.
Hmm.
But I was blessed to come 11 years early.
Right. Wow. Wow. So,
Yeah.
what are some things new that I mean, just regular folk, family members, myself, just regular people can do to put pressure, I guess, on these different states attorneys, prosecutors around the country to kind of change how they actually um, go after cases and the time that they put on these different folk, and just how they go about their work. Do you have any insight, or have you thought
Sure.
about that?
It's real simple. You know, by and large, um, prosecutors do not want to they don't want to take cases to trial. You know, right now, the court system is not built for that. The
Hmm.
court system is built on plea bargaining, point blank. And what they do, it's almost like they punish you if you decide to not take the plea bargain and want to take your case to trial. Then they make sure you get convicted, and then they give you the maximum sentence because you made them spend money.
Mm.
Made them spend money to impanel a jury. Made them spend money, to have the court, open it while they're not running the plea bargain meal through the courts. So, as citizens out here in the world, man, just stay aware of what's going on. Stay aware of the changes, because a lot of subtle things go on that, unless you're watching, the general public does not know about. And just make sure that because there are a lot of groups out here now, stay on top of these folks, stay on top of these politicians, stay on top of the folks that are in charge of these prisons, um, and just force your voice to be heard. You know, the thing about it is, because initially it was, and it still is for the most part. I'm speaking for Georgia. We got, God, of course, this is one of the few places where African American men are the majority.
Hmm.
And so, as a black community, man, we got to start speaking. Let these people know that no, we're not going for that any longer, especially these conditions inside these jails. But it can be stopped by not so many people being inside them to start with. And that's where you're talking about with the prosecutors and the DAs and these other folks that are just, because you've seen it yourself with the private prisons and the scandals that have gone on with judges basically selling kids, to make sure that these private prisons have 90-some% occupancy, and they make them that promise in their contracts.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Yeah, absolutely insane. Yeah, yeah.
That's madness. So we just have to stay on top of it, man. Make your voices heard, stay in their faces, stay in their offices, and then just let them know we're here.
Hmm. Hmm. What are some things now, man? What are you doing now? I know you were fortunate again to find employment. How difficult was that for you? And what exactly are you doing now?
Well, once again, I'm an anomaly, simply because of the fact that I have a very strong support system, which is something that most people don't. I have a very strong, church affiliation. I have a very strong with the Noops, and my family is astounding with their loyalty and support. So I've had a lot of people, man, that have tried to help, but there are a lot of agencies out here to try to help what they call returning citizens.
Hmm.
There are some challenges a lot of times when it comes down to employment. I would get frustrated sometimes because I felt like I was better qualified to do the person's job that I was interviewing with than they were.
Hmm.
But,
Hmm.
they would love you all until they got down to the box that said, you know, talking about your past, or if they looked at, your get you to get a report. You got to do a background check.
Yeah.
And they're doing this thing now, this whole ban the box thing.
Yes.
Um, some people are striving to it. some of them say they are, but they really aren't. But you just have to keep fighting, and it's a numbers game. You just keep interviewing, keep trying to make it happen, or either just make your own job.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
tried to do that for a while when I first came home, but it just got a little bit logistically, it wasn't working. So I had to come back into what I know, and that's sales.
Mhm.
And I'm very, very grateful to these folks. I'm sitting at work right now. As a matter of fact, my managing partner allowed me his office so that I could do this. He said, "This is fabulous what you're doing." He said, "If I can help you in any way, let me know." But when I was fortunate, they gave me a shot. So right now, what I'm doing, I'm internet sales specialist and product specialist at Budget Car and Truck Sales here in Columbus.
All right. All right.
And getting back into the groove with that. This is what I love doing. Like I said, I worked for Circuit City for a long time. I worked for Ford, Nissan. I've been an admissions rep. All in my life, so I've always been selling something, whether it be education, electronics, automobiles, whatever. So yeah, I'm good right now. Though I'm good.
That's excellent. That's excellent. That's excellent, man. So yeah, great. I'm great. Very great that you landed on your feet, getting back in the stride, and that you.
Don't let me make that clear. It had been easy.
Yeah, no, and I would imagine that it hasn't been, and that's one of the reasons again why we have you on is because there are those who are out here, they're struggling, trying to figure it out, and they're in that hard time right now. They're in that space
for help.
Yeah, ask for help. Yeah. No, I mean that's outstanding, man. And so, have you what are you doing now? Are you doing anything still with the prisons that you were like similar things? Are you trying to what are some things you're doing around this now?
Well, what I'm doing, when I have been here locally, I've been on the local news twice, interviewed, been on virtually, all the local talk shows talking about it. I serve as co-chair of what is called a Love and Action Committee at my church, the 4th Street Missionary Baptist Church here in Columbus, and it is a GE New. That's the pastor, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And what we do, our whole focus is to help returning citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm doing. I've stayed in front of kids. I've set up a couple of mentoring programs with a couple of the other new, with the Columbus, Georgia alumni chapter, Richard Wells. I'm shouting out. I know you're listening. We set up a couple of mentoring groups with a couple of elementary schools. We're trying to catch them early, early. Doing a whole lot as far as with tutoring and whatnot. And I just recently spoke with the deputy warden at the place where I spent the majority of my time and asked her, because I had to have a 2-year window before I could return inside those walls, and asked her to allow me to come back in and speak.
Okay.
So it's a lot going on.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. No, that's absolutely outstanding. As we getting closer to our hour, Noop, share with people how they, there's some folk right now, they got questions. They want, they got folk, like I said, they got folk inside, they got folk who just come home, they've got, all the above. How can they connect with Brother John Hodges and get through some of this? What is, how can they, how can they reach you?
Well, they actually can email me, Gary. They can email me at johnhodges278@gmail.com. And
okay. John Hodges 278@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. They can email me there. And hopefully, I know my wife and I started on the project to get a website up, but I was struggling with content. Mm-hmm. So I need to really get that back and get it going so that we can have have that avenue for people to ask the questions that's needed to be asked.
Yeah.
That's what happens, man. Tell them, bring them. I can at least try to point them in the right direction, because there are so many governmental agencies out there now, and through your mosque, your churches, your civic organizations. There's a lot of help out there right now that can get you the essentials that you need, whether it be food, clothing, shelter, SNAP benefits. If you're a veteran there, you got places you can go, because there are a lot of incarcerated veterans right now too, for real. Sad.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Man, we got to have you back on, brother. This hour kind of went fast. There were a lot of things I still want to ask. And
I got nothing but tell you. You just tell me when, and I'm gonna go.
Hey, I appreciate it, Noop, and I, really again appreciate all that you're doing. Not being one to be, to pity yourself, but to actually put yourself out there, being transparent and actually being of service to so many. I love you. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing the great work. And, we'll talk soon and hope to see you soon as well, brother.
Gary, let me say this before we sign off, man. Before the most important thing for anybody to do, man, you got to humble yourself. Mm-hmm. You got to humble yourself. And you know me, I wasn't exactly always the most humble person in the world, but you have to humble yourself, before yourself and before God, to let him work through you, man. So thanks a lot, man. I appreciate the opportunity. And tell you folks, if they got questions, bring them on.
All right, folks, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Man, to connect with John again, go to John Hodges. That's JOHNHODGES 278 @gmail.com. He is more than willing to be of service, to connect you with some good resources, at least if you're in that Columbia area, and perhaps even in other areas as well.
No doubt.
But we are just honored to have him. And folks, and hope you stay warm. I know here, and it's been cold. Chicago, my hometown. Wow. Prayed for my people, called my people. They were staying in. But for those, stay warm. And until next week, keep moving forward. Your host, Gary Rockman, real estate rock star, and this is Connection.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised.